Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here. Now that my two obligatory informative videos are done for the day, it's time to talk about current events in the online fitness community. And I came across a video by Vince, aka V-Shrunk over at V-Shred, covering the weighted dip. Now I'm going to have some positive and negative things to say about this. I want to tell a lot of you guys, Vince is one of those guys that probably should stay in his wheelhouse. And his wheelhouse actually is getting people lean. Right? I'll be quite frank. The guy stays lean. He's lean, has deep abs pretty much year round. You know what? He probably is not a bad person to go to if your goal is to get to 10% body fat or possibly a bit lower. You know, he's actually seems to be very successful at that. And apparently he's relatively successful at getting clients pretty lean. However, what he lacks is overall size, and he most definitely lacks thickness, and he lacks strength. So when he starts talking about exercises, he really gets stuff wrong, and he gets so hung up in this bro bodybuilder jargon that he read out of a magazine that he really doesn't grasp oftentimes how to do these lifts correctly or understand how to program them. And I mean, that's been demonstrated repeatedly when it comes to the big barbell movements. Now, I'm going to give credit where credit is due here. At least he does the dips with a full range of motion. He's at least taking a big exercise and doing the entire thing. That's unusual for him. He normally half squats. He normally does half reps on bench press. He does half reps on pull-ups. Some of the most important exercises for just developing overall mass and strength in your entire body. He really only half reps them. And we know based upon the research that half reps produce less muscle growth even if they allow you to lift a heavier weight. And they sure as hell don't improve strength as much because you have joint angle specificities, and strength is my wheelhouse. This is my wheelhouse. Now, as far as the dip goes, you guys know I'm a big fan of the weighted dip. Even though it's not a competition lift, I'm a big fan of the dip as demonstrated here. I think that was my last set of 5 with 100 pounds of plates. And again, it's an exercise I do relatively heavy, but I've also, you guys have seen me do like sets of 20 with just my body weight. So it's not like I only do it for low reps or moderate reps. 5s is really moderate. 5 isn't that heavy. Again, that's me as a strength athlete speaking. 5s is considered moderate, even almost borderline high reps for a lot of strength athletes. And that's okay. I still do things as much as 20 reps on some exercises. But the point is, we come over to it, the dip is a big movement. It's a big movement. And I think when you see guys like Vince, they want to take this fantastic, absolutely fantastic exercise for getting big. I mean, the dip will put meat on you. It will put thick slabs of meat on you in a lot of places in your upper body. It's almost a squat for the upper body, right? That's how I've termed it before. The problem is he starts getting into this mindset of you need these different adjustments. You need to squeeze your glutes. You need mind-muscle connection. And this angle will make it either more tricep dominant or chest dominant. All right, that's really misunderstanding the dip. And I know that's a popular way to think about it in certain circles. But that's really and truly misunderstanding the application of the weighted dip. Why is the weighted dip so fantastic? Because it takes the entire body, right? Moves your torso through space through a pretty long range of motion. And because of that range of motion involved, there's an enormous amount of stabilizers involved. But more importantly, because of the angles and things involved in the long range of motion, it tends to work muscles like the triceps in a way that you don't always get on other pressing movements. Meaning, in other words, the dip really shines at bringing more muscle, more total muscle fiber and muscles into play than a lot of other exercises. That is the strength of it, right? The fact that it actually works the lateral, the medial, and the long head of the tricep all concurrently, that's relatively rare. Like the bench press doesn't work the long head of the tricep as much as the dip. So that's one of the big perks of it, is that it brings a little more of the tricep in that maybe doesn't always get worked on the bench press. All right, what else does it do? It tends to work both the lower and the upper chest. It actually is a relatively complete chest exercise. If you keep your scapula retracted and you do the full range of motion, it's actually a fantastic chest builder. In fact, arguably better than a lot of other popular movements for bringing your chest up. It's the fact that it works all of these muscles really effectively. And it does it all at the same time. Not only is it one of the best tricep exercises out there, it actually stomps a lot of smaller single joint tricep movements into the ground in terms of total activation through all three heads. It's a superior exercise because it works all three heads while still working the chest as one of the best chest builders. And the added bonus of some interior delt, ab, a little bit of extra lat. It's just an all-around good exercise. It just incorporates so much muscle. And what happens when people want to take it and say, oh, I want to break it up and make it emphasize more on this muscle and that, you're getting right back into the mindset of the smaller exercises that it beats, right? It's there to bring your upper body up. And what I would say to people who say, well, what about the mind-muscle connection? Yeah, look at the data on that. We know that exercises, when you do slight variations and tweaks of these big exercises and you focus on squeezing and contracting, like getting just that right angle to try to squeeze your triceps more, right? Versus compensatory acceleration, just using compensatory acceleration on a big movement will cause more tricep activation than trying to focus on the mind-muscle connection. So what I would say to people, you really shouldn't be taking something like the dip and trying to break it up into making it more tricep or more pec dominant. You do the weighted dip because you want both your pecs and your triceps to grow. You want them both to get bigger and stronger. That's why you're doing this exercise. You really shouldn't be stuck in that mindset. And what I would say, don't go into the wider grip. I know he showed the demonstrator, you take the hands out, do the wider. The wider grip is actually one of the ways that you get hurt on it. All right, it's one of the ways that you get hurt. You don't need to do that to activate the pectorals. All you need to do is get a deep enough range of motion and keep your scapula retracted. If you keep your scapula retracted, any angle of the dip is going to put a deep stretch on your pecs, and on the way up, when you get to the top, it's going to continue to keep the pecs under tension. It is going to build your chest. As long as you keep the scapula retracted, you're going to get very effective chest activation on the dip, no matter what your torso angle is, even if you're using a moderate only shoulder width grip. And that's usually what I say. You don't want to go much wider than shoulder width because this is an exercise that is notorious for hurting people's shoulders. All right? What I would say is that you need to pick the angle that will allow you to do the heaviest weight through the longest range of motion. Why? Because that's what we're trying to do. You're wanting to turn this into an overall mass builder. And if you can get the longest range of motion possible that you can comfortably do with the heaviest weight possible for any given number of reps on this exercise, and you can be explosive with it, right? You can explode out of the bottom for the full range of motion all the way to the top. You're going to get the best of both worlds. You're going to get the best overall muscle activation, and you need to find the grip angles, which is usually going to be a balancing act between how narrow do you want to go on the V-bars usually, because I have V-bars for mine, versus what's going to be uncomfortable for your shoulder, right? Because you need to be able to get relatively low. You need to get to parallel on it while getting a stretch on the chest without feeling that strain in your shoulder. And so you need to find that comfortable middle ground of what's going to let you use the most weight, because you need to be able to stack the most plates under it. Or even if you can only do your body weight, if you have one hand position where you can do 10 reps and another hand position you can only do 6 reps, I'm going to recommend you do the one that does 10 reps. Why? Because it's going to give you more overall work. And if you can do it through the same range of motion for more work, you're going to get more overall development out of it. You really shouldn't be taking an exercise like this and be thinking in terms of, do I want to make it more tricep dominant or more chest dominant? The fact is, any way you do the exercise, if it's done correctly, is fantastic for both. And I would really recommend you don't get caught up in that mindset. Right? Because none of you out there who are doing dips are ever saying, my chest is too big, I need it to shrink down and I need my triceps to grow. Anybody doing the dip thinking that? Or vice versa, anyone who's doing the dip as a primary exercise and coming in and taking the dip as a serious movement that they're really going to train, they're not going, oh man, my triceps are too big. Right, I need just my chest to grow. No, you wouldn't be doing the dip if either one of those was your problem. The dip wouldn't be your go-to exercise. Right, I'm going to say, look, if you have a weak point and you need to train that weak point, whether it's for aesthetic purposes or athletic purposes, because you need it for playing football, something's too weak, something's weak for your punch, something's weak for your bench press as a power lifter, or whether you have more physique goals, fine, do some specialized work for it. But don't take your big movements that have the potential to put the most overall size on everything and start trying to break them down in that way. The dip is an overall mass builder. Treat it as such, and you need to be seeking to maximize your performance on it, maximize your workloads on it of how much weight can I move through the longest range of motion without injuring myself. That should be your mindset on an exercise like a dip. It needs to be thought of in terms of performance, not mind-muscle connection. Look, if you have some little head of your tricep that needs more work, fine, go do some extra work for it later. Don't use your dips for that. The dips is a mass builder. It is there to get you big and thick, and it can do one hell of a good job at it. It is easily one of the best upper body mass exercises ever created, particularly when you start getting strong at weighted dips. Use it as a correct tool, right? Use the tool for what it is good at. And if you have something else that's a lagging point, there are better exercises for specializing in those lagging points. There really is, rather than taking one of your most effective exercises and trying to neuter it down by getting in that mindset. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.